There we go. Hey, everybody, this is Jim with Harvest Harmonics, and we're doing a little bit of recalibration here as we have a big thunderstorm that just shut down our internet for a second. And it's one of those things, of course, right before you go live, is that's when lightning strikes it. Now you have no internet. But thank you for joining us here in Innovations in Agriculture. We really appreciate having you. And for this episode today, I really just wanted to give a shout out to our competition, right? I wanted to give a shout out to, the big boss, the big guys out there who are our main competition in this endeavor that we have to expand our company and our product offering for farmers around the world. Now, some of you guys may think our competition are, the big fertilizer companies or the big chemical companies or the seed companies, and I'm not going to mention any of their names because really, it's. I'm not trying to cast any dispersion on anybody. They all have their products. They're all trying to help in whatever way they can, and they do whatever they do. But the real competition that we have is not the chemical companies. It's not fertilizer companies. We say, okay, we can help you reduce your input costs, your pesticide usage, your fertilizer usage, but our competition is not a fertilizer company. It's not a chemical company. It's not a pesticide. It's not a fungicide or herbicide, any of those things. Our competition is not GMO manufacturers or researchers. Our competition is really only one thing, and that is considerations. Now, what is a consideration? Well, a consideration is just an idea. Okay, it's an idea that a person has. And when you have an idea, consideration has a tendency to be a fixed idea, meaning it's an idea that doesn't really change. You get up in the morning, you may look around through your refrigerator and say, well, what do I want for breakfast this morning, right? And you may just make a decision. One day you may choose eggs, and the day you may choose cereal, right? You have different ideas, and it's not particularly a fixed idea unless every single day you go out and you eat eggs every day and you never change that. But when it comes to businesses and running your farm, what we've run into in talking to thousands and thousands of farms around the world is very interestingly a fixed idea, consideration. And that fixed idea and consideration is there's really only a few finite or unvaried ways to increase crop yields and crop production and crop health. And those ways are the ones that have been used for the last 60 or 70 years, right? You're talking about adding nitrogen fertilizer, supplementing with phosphorus or phosphates or potassium. In some cases, maybe supplementing with micronutrients or now biological activities and microbes. Adding those biological agents to the soil is becoming a little bit more in vogue, and that's been going on for the last 20, 30 years. But our technology and our product is a very unique technology, right? We're not talking about a chemical additive. In fact, when I talk to people for the first time, to farmers for the first time about, hey, we have a product that's going to increase your crop yield by 15 to 30%, or even more perhaps, the first thing they think of immediately is, well, what kind of fertilizer is this? Is something you inject? Is this, a liquid fertilizer, a chemical, something like that? And that's what we call a consideration, a fixed idea. And that just means that most farmers, because of their long track record of using chemical fertilizers, manure, and those types of things, they just assume that when you talk about increasing productivity, you're talking about one of the well-established methodologies, which is fertilization, for example, or fertility, or soil amendments, those types of things. But the reality is, and there's a reason I say that that's kind of our competition, because we have a technology that utilizes a very unique radio wave signaling system that directly stimulates the metabolism of plants. And you may have caught the intro, and I'll show. You see those like radio waves, and you may see those, and when you hear the radio station and those types of things, you see these wave patterns, and you think, oh, okay, well that's some kind of signaling system. Well, what does that have to do with plant production and plant health? Well, it turns out that it has everything to do with it, because everything you're already doing in terms of adding fertilization and adding nitrogen or phosphorus or any kind of soil amendment that seeks to add chemicals to the soil, and those chemicals are designed to give the plant a certain nutrients that it needs in order to grow, you're actually influencing the physics of that plant. You're influencing the metabolism of the plant, but you're doing it through the use of chemistry. So it's kind of like you're using a via or some kind of throughput of chemistry to get to the physics of the plant. The physics of the plant is actually what characterizes its metabolism. So If I eat a giant cheeseburger right now, and I just been sitting around all day and I eat a giant cheeseburger, my metabolism, because I haven't been active all day, is not going to handle all of those extra calories. It's not going to be able to convert that energy into a useful form of energy, so it turns it into fat. Now, if I have been running around all day, let's say I ran a marathon today and I ate that big juicy cheeseburger after running this marathon, my body has been burning calories to the extent that it can just, my metabolism will be ramped up and it can just handle all that energy. But all of those processes, those biochemical processes in human beings or plants or any living thing, are all governed by, guess what? Physics. There's an undercut to chemistry, and that's physics. And so today what we're talking about in terms of our competition is not really so much the chemical companies, the people that have other solutions than ours. It's really has to do with the fact that how open are you to new ideas and new possibilities in terms of improving your crop health or your crop production. Because if you're a person with very fixed ideas and very fixed consideration that there's only a few ways you can actually go about improving crop yields, crop health, and those types of things, then of course you're going to have a lot of skepticism when it comes to our technology. However, if you're the type of person that always looks for that cutting edge or that way to that new understanding and the new way of doing things, a new way of maybe moving forward, it doesn't mean you abandon everything you've already been doing. It doesn't mean you abandon all of your successful farming actions that you've accumulated over your last 10, 20, 30, 50 years. It just means that you're looking for new understandings of how this all works. Even researchers with PhDs that spent their whole life studying and doing detailed, in-depth research on the physiology of plants are always learning things new every single day. As much knowledge and understanding as they've accumulated about plant metabolism, they're still learning new things every day. In fact, a lot of researchers, when they first encounter our technology, says, "Well, I've never really heard of that before," and then they go back to the research chain and find out, "Wow, the research goes all the way back to the 19th century, to the 1800s." On this. And actually, the research of our specific technology took 20 years to develop. It wasn't something that somebody just thought of. It was like, okay, we thought of it, we tested it, we planned it, we tweaked it, we continued the research and development over 20 years, and now we have a valuable final product that, of course, produces excellent results. So, in this particular episode, I really just want to invite you to challenge your own fixed ideas if you have them. Now, I don't want to invalidate anybody, but if you have an idea like there's really only a few ways that you can improve plant health or production or increase insect resistance or these types of things, just understand that there are new understandings continually evolving. And everything that's happening in the universities right now, in terms of all the different research, all has to do with bringing those new understandings and testing it to make sure that they work. Now, we've taken the approach that we want to test this in real world applications. We don't want to test it in such a highly controlled environment. Initially, we want to test it on a real farm. We want to say, good, let's put it out on Farmer Joe's farm over there, his 150 acres, and let's see what the differences are. And we do the measurements, and we do a control versus, a test versus control plot, and we measure all the differences, and then we actually publish our results. And now we've done so much of that research and developed so many positive case studies that we're now developing the second half, which is the university research. Because of course, some people really just again, considerations is a test is not valid unless it's being done by a professional research facility or a university, and that's fine. That's a consideration. That's an idea. That's a thought that you have, and in some cases that might prove true. In other cases, it might not. I look at it like my technology works or it doesn't. Whether it's being tested by Farmer Joe over here or Doctor so and so over there in the University of whatever. Um, my technology works or it doesn't. That's how I look at it. And of course, I want to prove that my technology works all the time. So, of course, we're working on university studies because we're not avoiding university studies or anything like that. In fact, we have an initiative to test our device, our Humanosity Plant Booster, on 1,000 university trials around the world in the next 5 to 10 years. Hopefully, 5 years when I get it done fast. We want this to be the most validated, researched technology on the planet when it comes to agriculture. We want to have an Encyclopedia Britannica. On just Humanosity Plant Booster and the science behind it, because we want this to be very well documented so that there's no shadow of a doubt in anybody's mind that the technology it does work, it's effective, it's cost effective, it's profitable, and It produces amazing results all the time. So we're in the process of doing that, and we're also in the process right now of testing this on over 100 farms, I believe, here in the United States, and in other areas of the world, we're testing this on another several hundred farms. So we're continually proving ourselves and making sure that this thing works. But the only real competition, guys, that we have as a company, because we have a technology that is unlike anything else. It's not a chemical, it's not a fertilizer, it's not an insecticide or a pesticide, it's not magnets or some kind of other water vortex things. And again, nothing against those types of technologies, but our technology is far away and above all of those different products and all those different approaches to improving agriculture. We are taking a systemic approach to plants' metabolism to improve the entire metabolism of a plant, from microbial activity in the soil through photosynthesis efficiency in the plant, through fruit and vegetable production at the far end. And we're also making sure that that fruits and vegetables is as nutrient dense as possible. So really, I just ask you guys a question, and I'll leave it at that for today. Because again, we've got a big storm over here, and I don't want to get caught in a rainstorm like the guy in Caddyshack years and years ago. If you ever saw that movie, or otherwise get struck by lightning here. But I want to just leave you with this. Um, are you the type of person that has a lot of fixed ideas that lead you to believe that I don't want to try anything new? I want to do things the same way my dad did it, my grandpa did it, my great grandpa did it, and I don't really want to do anything to change those successful actions. If you're that type of guy, that's totally fine, but those are considerations, right? That's not necessarily always true that new products and new approaches and new sciences and new techniques are being evolved that might be better than the way things were done in the past. Now, that's not to say that every new thing is obviously always going to work, but of course, there are new products, there are new approaches, there are new technologies that are consistently and continually evolving agriculture. And I want to ask you this question. Do you really believe that agriculture in the next, 50 years from now is going to look a lot, exactly the same as it does now? Agriculture is not necessarily an industry that changes radically from year to year, but it has evolved quite a bit over the last 10, 20 years. And in 20 more years, or 30 more years, or 40 or 50 more years, I think you're going to see a lot more technologies eventually catching up to Kim and Aussie, to where we're at now, I should say. Maybe not catching up to where we will be in 20 years, but it will start to really evaluate how we can directly stimulate the health of the plant and the metabolism of the plant in a natural, organic way that is not invasive, that is not dangerous to human consumption or the plant's health or soil health or anything like that. And that can also help us reach our environmental goals, our food production goals, and overall improve the quality of life on Earth, which is, of course, the whole point, right? We're really not looking at how do we improve the quality of life on Earth for humans, for plants, for animals, and for everything on the Earth. Then it's just a short-term solution, and it's time to stop looking at short-term solutions and start embracing um, very long-term solutions that are viable now and will just get more and more viable as we continue to go. So I'm gonna open it up for some questions. I've kind of been talking quite a bit. Wow, big thing here. Let's see here what we got here. Dear friend, bees worldwide are showing significant decline due to a number of anthropogenic factors. That's a very good article, and thank you, SciCat. I appreciate that. The cool thing about our technology too is that because it's not an insecticide, it's not something that kills insects. It actually doesn't damage or harm bees or other pollinators. In fact, there's nothing in our signaling system that actually alters or affects animals in any way, because the frequency pattern that I mentioned earlier, and I'll show this graphic again here, just real quick. Now you see that frequency pattern. Now there's certain frequency patterns and of a plant metabolism, and those frequency patterns are very, very distinct and very different from the same frequency patterns for the metabolism of animals, including pollinators and insects and other things. So when people say, "Oh wow, you have huge insect resistance on eggplant in India," for example, if they've watched one of our presentations, they might immediately think, "Oh, you're using insecticide or something that's killing those insects." No, the plant has its own immune system against predatory insects. So For example, when a fly or a type of worm or some kind of parasite goes and starts eating up its leaves, plants will have their own biochemical response to drive away those insects. The insects then avoid those plants and they go elsewhere. However, bees or positive or pollinators or beneficial insects are not harmed by that same biochemical response because obviously they're not eating leaves or pollinating the flowers. So our technology has no effect positively or negatively against insects, including pollinators. So, if that's a concern for you, of course, you definitely want to promote this product that we're promoting because we're helping increase plant metabolism and and improve insect resistance naturally in the plant itself, so that pollinators and other beneficial insects are not harmed. So, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. It is a little bit too long for me to actually put that. Usually, I'll put it here. So. Uh, there's the comment there, and you can of course read it if you're on Facebook and read the comments. Thank you, Mr. Bazzi, appreciate that. But yes, our technology doesn't harm pollinators, and that's the other benefit. When you can really directly stimulate the natural biological responses in the plant will do what it's genetically programmed to do, which is it will grow, it will be healthy, it will produce flowers, which turn into fruits and vegetables, which are healthy and nutrient dense, and it does not harm the environment. In fact, it actually helps the environment. Plants are actually the centerpiece of all life on Earth. Without plants, there would be no life. We humans wouldn't have anything to eat. Insects, animals, those types of things would not be able to eat, and even predatory, carnivores wouldn't have anything to eat because the things that they eat rely on plants. And plants and algae, of course, represent all of the oxygen production that allows all of our carbon dioxide to get recapitulated into the earth. The other cool thing is, again, because we're not using chemical nitrogen or excess of certain chemicals like that, we don't have the same kind of environmental effects you might see in certain chemical applications in agriculture. So again, it's time to take a look at your considerations, guys. It's not about me telling you buy my product. It's about you. It's about me saying, look, all I want to do is give you some information. All I want you to do is take a look at what you're doing now and ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing giving me all the results that I want? And am I completely happy and I don't want to see anything more? Do I not want to see more yield? Do I not want to see better quality? Do I not want to work in such a way to improve the health of the environment as a whole? And if you're totally happy with the way things are, of course, there's continue to do what you're doing. But if you're always looking for something to improve and always thinking, if I can just do this a little better or that a little better, or look at new technologies and new approaches, then I offer you the opportunity to look at your own ideas and your own considerations, your own fixed ideas, and ask yourself the question, if there was something that sounded too good to be true, but it really made a lot of sense, and it was based upon solid science, in this case, physics or biophysics, physics applied to living things, wouldn't it be worth taking a look at? So if that's the kind of mentality you want to approach this with, I would love to send information to you. I'd love to consult with you about your farm and the issues you may be having and help you improve and see if we can help make your farm even better for yourself and your loved ones and all of us that eat the healthy food that you're producing. That's really all I got today, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. And I look forward to hearing you and seeing you. We have another Future of Farming webinar series coming up next week. And we are lining up various Ask an Expert. I've just got off the phone about 20 minutes ago with a very, very exciting guest that we should be having very shortly. He's going to be talking about root density and root growth and some of the unique ways that they're measuring these things in terms of his research. And it's very, very fascinating. I think it's going to produce a lot of positive effects and a lot of better understandings of how root development and root structures work to absorb water and nutrients. And of course, that's just going to fuel better activity going forward. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next week on the Future of Farming Today. Bye now.